For months, things hadn't been the same behind the scenes of Love and Marriage, Huntsville. Although the cast smiled in front of the cameras, something felt off. Carlosking, the man who built the entire show from scratch, could sense the tension growing every time he walked onto set. What once felt like a family had now become divided. Whispers between crew members, cold shoulders among castmates, and last-minute changes to filming schedules became the new normal. Carlos didn't want to believe that two of his original cast members, Latisha and Destiny, were becoming a problem. He had given them a platform, a voice, and endless opportunities. But lately, their energy was affecting everyone around them. What used to be a professional, creative environment now felt heavy. The crew started dreading call times, and even other cast members expressed that things just didn't feel safe or comfortable anymore. Carlos knew something needed to change, but he was still holding on to the hope that maybe it would fix itself. He never wanted it to come to this. In the beginning, Latisha was one of the most grounded and humble people on the show. Viewers loved her for being soft-spoken yet strong, loyal to her family, and focused on building her brand. But as the seasons went on and her popularity grew, something inside her began to change. People around her started noticing a shift. She began walking onto set with an attitude that made everyone feel like they were beneath her. She no longer followed the production schedule strictly and often arrived late, causing delays for the whole crew. At first, Carlos brushed it off, thinking maybe she was going through something personal or just tired. But then she began making unusual demands, asking for certain scenes to be removed, requesting that producers script moments to make her look better, and even refusing to film with certain cast members unless her conditions were met. Carlos had always tried to give his cast freedom and space to express themselves, but Latisha had crossed the line from being confident to being controlling. Her behavior wasn't just affecting production, it was causing real problems with other cast members too. She would act like a team player on camera, but behind closed doors, she would criticize everyone and complain that the show didn't revolve around her enough. Carlos tried to have respectful conversations with her, reminding her of the bigger picture, the fans, and the purpose of the show. But it seemed like Latisha was caught up in her own world, where she thought she was untouchable. Her ego had grown to a level that was making it impossible to maintain a healthy working environment, and Carlos was quietly taking notes. Destiny had always been one of the most unpredictable personalities on the show, but Carlos had seen something special in her when he first brought her on. She was strong, outspoken, and carried herself with confidence. But as time passed, that fire started to burn in the wrong direction. Destiny became inconsistent, not just in her performance on screen, but in her professional responsibilities as well. She would often cancel interviews just hours before they were scheduled, leaving producers scrambling to fill in the gaps. There were days when she simply wouldn't show up on set, offering vague excuses or saying she wasn't in the mood to film. The cast and crew tried to be understanding, thinking maybe she was going through something personal, but her behavior kept getting worse instead of better. Off camera, Destiny's actions became even more concerning. She started sharing private behind-the-scenes drama with fan blogs, sometimes twisting the narrative just to keep her name trending online. Crew members complained about her attitude, saying she spoke disrespectfully and made it difficult for anyone to do their job properly. Several cast members tried to pull her aside and talk to her woman to woman, but Destiny always played the victim, claiming everyone was jealous or out to get her. Carlos had multiple sit-down conversations with her, hoping to get through and remind her of the opportunities she'd been given. But each time, she offered excuses, blamed someone else, or promised to do better, only to repeat the same behavior days later. Carlos began realizing that Destiny was no longer the woman he once believed in, and her presence was starting to damage the integrity of the show. The breaking point came during what was supposed to be a simple cast trip episode, something fun and light to show the cast reconnecting outside their usual environment. The crew had planned everything carefully, hoping for a peaceful shoot that would remind viewers of the original bond the cast once shared. But that hope was quickly shattered. Tensions had been simmering between Latisha and Melody for a while, and that day, it all exploded. What started as a small disagreement over a harmless comment turned into a full-blown shouting match. Before Carlos or any producer could step in, Destiny jumped into the argument, siding aggressively with Latisha. She began yelling, pointing fingers, and accusing Melody of trying to tear people apart. The entire set went silent as crew members froze, unsure whether to keep filming or intervene. The energy turned hostile, no longer just reality TV drama, but something deeper and much more personal. It was the kind of moment that couldn't be scripted and couldn't be controlled. Carlos made the immediate decision to cut filming, asking everyone to step away and calm down. Security was called in, not because anyone was physically violent, but because emotions had spiraled so far out of control that it didn't feel safe anymore. Later that day, multiple crew members came forward to file official complaints. They said the work environment had become toxic, and they were beginning to dread coming to work. Carlos, though heartbroken, knew in that moment that the show had crossed a line. What was meant to be entertainment had turned into something harmful for the cast, the crew, and the brand as a whole. The incident forced Carlos to take a step back and consider the future of the show in a way he had never imagined before. After the disastrous incident on set, Carlos King knew he couldn't ignore the situation any longer. He had spent years building Love and Marriage, Huntsville into a successful, respected franchise, but now it was at serious risk. He took a few days to gather his thoughts, reviewing footage, reading crew complaints, and speaking privately with cast members who were still committed to the show's values. It wasn't an easy decision, but Carlos realized it was time to bring the issue to the attention of the higher-ups. He scheduled a private meeting with executives at the OWN network, people who had trusted him with their platform and supported the show from the beginning. Sitting across from them, Carlos laid it all out. No sugarcoating, no holding back. He explained how Latisha and Destiny's behavior had slowly taken over the production, creating an environment that was no longer manageable or healthy. He described how their personal conflicts had grown bigger than the storylines, overshadowing the purpose of the show, and how that recent outburst during filming had pushed everything over the edge. Carlos made it clear that this wasn't a personal attack. It was a professional decision that needed to be made if the show was going to survive and grow. The executives listened carefully, asking questions, reviewing the documented complaints, and watching unedited clips of what had gone down. They knew Carlos wasn't someone who acted on impulse. If he was bringing this to them, it was serious. After a long discussion, the network gave him their full support. They trusted his vision and agreed that while the ratings were still strong, protecting the long-term integrity of the show mattered more. They told Carlos to do what he felt was necessary, even if that meant letting go of original cast members. It was a painful green light, but one Carlos knew he had to act on. The time for warnings and second chances was over. Carlos King had made many tough decisions in his career, but this one was different. Letting go of Latisha and Destiny wasn't just about correcting behavior. It felt like cutting off a part of the show's original soul. These were women who had helped build Love and Marriage, Huntsville from the ground up. Their stories, their families, their personalities had all played a key role in making the show what it was. But Carlos also understood that loyalty couldn't come at the cost of the entire production. The atmosphere had become too toxic, and the damage was spreading fast. With a heavy heart, he arranged private meetings with both Latisha and Destiny to deliver the news face-to-face. Latisha was called in first. She walked into the room with confidence, almost as if she expected to be praised or asked for her opinions on the next storyline. But Carlos's tone was calm, serious, and final. He spoke to her with honesty and respect, thanking her for everything she had contributed over the years. Then he gently explained that her recent behavior had made it impossible to continue working with her. He told her this wasn't about punishment. It was about protecting the future of the show. At first, Latisha was silent. Then her face hardened. She accused Carlos of being ungrateful and blind to all she had done. Without saying goodbye, she stood up and walked out, slamming the door behind her. Destiny's meeting came next. She seemed more nervous, perhaps sensing what was coming. Carlos sat across from her, his expression filled with disappointment but not anger. He reminded her of the faith he had in her when he first brought her on, and how heartbreaking it had been to watch that potential slowly unravel. He spoke about the no-shows, the blog leaks, the conflicts. Destiny nodded slowly but didn't say much. When Carlos told her she would no longer be a part of the upcoming season, tears filled her eyes. She said she didn't mean for things to get so out of hand, but she understood. Unlike Latisha, Destiny left the room quietly, sad, but not bitter. For Carlos, that day felt like losing two sisters, but he also felt the weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't just about the show, it was about protecting everyone who still believed in it. The difficult decision had been made, and now the real work of rebuilding could begin. As soon as the news became public that Latisha and Destiny had officially been let go from Love and Marriage, Huntsville, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with opinions, some supportive, some shocked, and others downright furious. Longtime fans of the show felt torn. For many viewers, Latisha and Destiny had been essential voices from the very beginning. Their storylines, family struggles, and raw honesty had kept the audience coming back season after season. Some fans accused Carlos of turning his back on the original foundation of the show, calling it a betrayal. Hashtags like #BringBackLatisha and #JusticeForDestiny started trending as emotional viewers expressed their disappointment. But not everyone felt the same. A large number of fans and even industry insiders applauded Carlos for making a difficult but necessary move. They said the show had become toxic in recent seasons, and Latisha and Destiny were at the center of that negativity. Many felt that other cast members had been walking on eggshells just to keep the peace, and this decision finally gave space for new growth. Comments poured in under Melody's and Kimmy's posts, where fans asked for their opinions on the situation. While both women remained respectful, their responses were telling. Melody said she was hopeful for a more peaceful work environment moving forward. Kimmy, known for her level-headedness, admitted that while it was sad to lose original castmates, she understood why the change had to happen. Within the cast itself, the atmosphere shifted. Some felt relieved that they no longer had to deal with constant behind-the-scenes drama. Others felt the absence deeply, especially those who had once considered Latisha and Destiny close friends. But even in the silence, there was an unspoken understanding. Things could not go on the way they were. Everyone had seen how far things had spiraled. Carlos's decision had shocked the group, but it also made them sit up and think about their own roles and responsibilities in keeping the show grounded and respectful. The mixed emotions from both the cast and fans prove one thing: this wasn't just reality TV. These were real people, real stories, and real consequences. A few days after the dust had settled, Carlos King finally broke his silence with a heartfelt public statement. Fans had been waiting to hear from him directly, wanting clarity, answers, or at least some sense of closure. Carlos chose not to do it through a flashy video or dramatic announcement. Instead, he released a calm, honest, and mature message through his official platforms. In his statement, he began by expressing gratitude to Latisha and Destiny for the years they had dedicated to the show. He acknowledged their impact, their strength, and the vulnerability they had shared with millions of viewers. It wasn't an attack, nor was it defensive. It was respectful, thoughtful, and full of grace. He went on to explain that the decision to let them go had not been easy. In fact, it had been one of the hardest moments of his career. But as a creator and producer, he had a responsibility not only to the audience, but also to the entire production team and remaining cast. Carlos emphasized that this wasn't about drama or punishment. It was about protecting the energy and future of a show that had started losing its original heart. He wanted to take the series in a new direction, one that focused on growth, healing, and authentic storytelling without the constant cloud of negativity and division. Carlos's message ended on a hopeful note. He promised that the upcoming season would reflect change, not just in the cast, but in the tone and purpose of the show. He teased the introduction of new voices, fresh perspectives, and deeper, more meaningful conversations.